what to do if you're running out of IPs in a VPC. This was asked by Michael Jenkins, who's a regular here, but he had to drop early. Vlad, you were sharing something before we started the call. You want to continue on what you were saying?
Yeah, so the first thing is VPCs now support adding additional IP ranges. So you can add, if I'm not wrong, up to 5 additional CIDR ranges. So 5/16s.
Yeah.
It's very well supported. It's easy to do. That would be my first step. Michael was asking something about private link though, and I haven't used that. I cannot comment on it. I've got no idea.
Yeah, anybody have experience expanding the IP space by deploying multiple VPCs and connecting them with private link? We haven't implemented anything like that yet, so don't know.
I mean, that's really not like expanding that's just creating a separate like VPC and then like allowing like peering to go between the two of them.
Yeah,
that's
which
not
we
really
have,
doing the same thing. Yeah,
but it could be a better best practice than if you're actually running out of space. He mentioned something about ECS, which I didn't follow in the beginning. I've had issues where I need to expand a VPC, but I've put its subnet IP blocks right next to something, and because we peer a lot of stuff together, I have to do this like weird expand and contract thing where I create a new subnet with a wider IP space, and then I move some instances over one AZ at a time, and then it's super annoying to do though. So I wasn't sure if he was running into just like limitations of IP space because of something that's peered with private link, but. Yeah, it's totally doable. You just have to do the right order in order to get more IPs.
What's not though maybe that ideal about it is if you're using it together with ECS or something that gets deployed there. Now you suddenly need to know you have the job of scheduling stuff in one VPC or the other is now the developer's job or whoever's deploying that. So I think that if you can stick with the single VPC and add the ranges, and let the scheduling in ECS or EKS handle that, it'll be easier to support.
Yeah, it also just lets you know when you're creating new VPCs, like don't get clever, like take a /16 or something. Like there's no, like if you can, like, because then you end up, I mean, unless you're going to have more than 65,000 IP addresses, like that's going to be enough for almost every organization on earth, like, to handle that in a VPC.
I'll just throw a hypothetical situation, which I might be in. If you are using /16s when you don't need to, and you suddenly eat up, half of the total 10 net IP space, and you're peering stuff together, and your company then merges with another company, and good luck. I totally don't know about this situation, but from personal experience.
Yeah, I've worked in like a lot of large organizations and had that happen. The other thing I would say is like, the 10.1/16 isn't a great one to pick. Like use some of the like more obscure like ones out there that people are likely not using when you pick them, and then when you merge with people, you're less likely to have that problem. But then you'll inevitably have a problem where you're using the same IP address with a company you acquire or that you are acquired or whatever. And then you get into some like crazy NAT scenarios where you have to talk to each other. You basically just have to like NAT, either one person has to renumber, or you just do like NAT translation between your two sides of the equation, which, is messy, but it works.
I've done VPC endpoints where I just create a VPC endpoint inside of another VPC rather than pairing two VPCs together for two orgs, and then an acquisition situation which I think is basically NATing through a VPC endpoint. Matt, is that different than what you're talking about?
Yeah, so actually doing network address translation through some sort of an appliance where like you address everything as like 10.2/16, but on the other side of that, like where they actually have the hosts, they might have it as like 10.1 something, and you're both using 10.1, and then they like translate it like source and destination. They translate all your 10.1s to 10.2s on their side or something like that. So there's a way when you're communicating with that you would just have a net. I mean, that's essentially like what a a NAT gateway is doing for you, like on the edge, on your internet edge. That's basically taking like all your private IP addresses, and it's actually doing port address translation, like it's translating all those to a public EIP where the public address is on the other side. But you can actually do that with a whole range of addresses. So you can say, like, when I communicate with like 10.2.1.1, it's really going to get translated on the back end to 10.1.1.1 when it communicates on the other side of the VPC. So
AWS doesn't support that, do they, on the NAT?
Not on the NAT
use,
gateway.
you have to
that's
use
why I
a
said
third-party appliance.
Custom appliance.
Exactly.
I'm waiting for the blog post about which third-party appliance, because I do want to look at it, but I was disappointed when you said third-party appliance.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's either third-party appliance or like if you get sufficient enough like Linux hosts, you can easily do that with IP tables, and they can support like 10 gigs of throughput each. It's it's not great, but it works.
I'm afraid now. But if you have a blog post about how to do this in an acquisition situation, I'm positive I will eventually have to deal with this. So feel free to post something.
I don't have one handy, but I would be glad to write one. I probably should. I've done this a few times.
So now in the formation of a corporation for startups, the best practice is, incorporate in Delaware and pick, obscure site ranges for your VPCs.
I do see, there was a comment about EKS. Yeah, that's pretty common where, especially the big companies where they'll have, very fine-grained subnet sizes and then run situations where Kubernetes will exhaust that subnet range. So the idea, there's a comment about EKS, and you can do secondaries within EKS too.
That's true.